All right, guys. American Dream Podcast, episode 2. I have a spectacular guest here, the one and only Josh Snow.
What's going on, brother?
What's going on with you, Josh?
Appreciate you having me out here.
Man, I appreciate you being here. And as we discussed before this podcast, I've done plenty of podcasts with plenty of individuals. And man, am I nervous for this one, you know?
You'll be all right.
Maybe don't say that on air to people, but
I don't bite.
But you're just such an extravagant person, man. I mean, I've listened to pretty much all of your content online, and it is mind-blowing, right? We talk about being a jack of all trades and a master of none, and you found some weird niche to where you seem like you're like a master of all trades. It blew my mind. So just before we get started and we jump into that, I wanted to focus a little bit on your upbringing. So do you mind just telling us a little bit about what your story is and coming up? I know you speak of being coming up from a financially
growing up, I didn't know the difference, right? I think my parents did a really good job at providing everything that I needed. So, but I definitely knew, even if you turn on a TV show, it's like, the families that are depicted in terms of, where we live and stuff. So, we didn't grow up in the best area, but, growing up, I didn't know any different because my parents did such a good job raising me. I just, I was insulated from that. But I would see, walking home from school. And so I grew up in West Phoenix, which is a little bit more of a crime-ridden area. I think I went to public high school, and so the high schools there, I think at the time were a little bit more focused on, hey, graduate high school. And so there were talks obviously at my high school around college and all of that, but none of my siblings were able to go to university, and I'm the youngest sibling in my family. So, I felt a little bit of pressure just internally of like, hey, I've got to go hard at this because I'm representing my entire family. And so growing up, I think that not knowing a lot and not having much were actually two of my strongest advantages. And Damon John talks about the power of broke, and that's the name of his book, and it's a great book. And I think there's something to that not knowing, you don't know what you don't know. And so like when I started learning how to program websites at 13, 12 years old, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that you could make money doing that. I just was trying. I had a lot of energy, and I was really frustrated because I wanted to be able to make money to help my family out. But obviously no one's going to hire a 12, 13-year-old. And so I felt really frustrated. And I think growing up, I always wanted to be older. I always wanted to, I didn't know it at the time, but I wanted to be financially independent. And I didn't want to have to ask anybody for anything. And I wanted to help other people. And in order to do that, I had to have enough for myself, and I had to have enough to be able to create value, to create jobs. And that's like looking back on it. At the time, I was just like, I want to be able to pay for my own school shopping. Like that was the initial thing. And I think growing up in that neighborhood and growing up with that kind of mindset really shaped my street smarts, that's for sure. And then I think it also gave me a taste of that world and that life. And I yearned for more. I yearned for more for myself, for my family, for my friends. And so I think that because of that unique position that I was in, it was also hard to talk about my dreams out loud, not necessarily to my family, but friends and people at school, because it seems so lofty of a dream that I was taking the city bus at the time, Valley Metro in Phoenix, and like I'm sitting on the bus and like one day I want to drive a Lamborghini, and it seems so far out because you're like, gosh, I have to do this, but then I have to do this, but then I have to do, and it seems so far out. But I think that as I've gotten older, I've realized everybody has a story. Everybody starts from somewhere, and it's more about, doesn't matter if you start off with $10 million or you start off with negative $10 million, where you start and then where you end up, and then the man or woman you become through that journey, I think is much more respected than, what car you drive or et cetera, right? I've met a lot of people who have way more money than me or whatever, bigger companies. It's really down to the person and kind of what that's done to them to help shape them into the man they are today. And so early on, not having a lot of resources made me resourceful.
Right.
And that, I think, trait continues today, where I still come to any business, no matter how much money I have, I think about how can we do this resourcefully, using our resourcefulness versus just trying to throw money at it. And I think that gives me a huge advantage in the entrepreneurial world because I'm really focused on taking care of my people, taking care of my network, taking care of my reputation. There are a lot of kind of ancillary benefits to that, where instead of just saying I'm going to raise a bunch of money or throw a bunch of money at something, I'm really going to think about it like I am. I still wake up every morning like that same kid with a big dream, and things have changed, and I've gotten older and success has come and all that, but I still feel very in tune with that teenager on the city bus who has a big dream. It's just my dreams have shifted a little bit. They've evolved at this point because, again, you don't know what you don't know.
Of course. And, about being resourceful, I mean, I'm from a different country, so there's a lot of language barriers with some of my family members, and I really, really try to implement how important it is to be resourceful. And I watch you speak on, not having access to Adobe or not having access to a $600 Photoshop program, and you doing whatever it takes and getting all the viruses in the world on your computer to overcome that. Where does that fuel come from to be resourceful? Obviously, you speak of, being on the city bus.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of inspiration to be resourceful on the city bus, right?
Yeah.
So where does that stem from?
It stems from if you don't have if you want to make some food at home, you kind of throw some things together and you become resourceful. And I've got I'm like the king of snacks. I know how to make like the best snacks out of like nothing. And people are like, where did you come out with this stuff? So like it comes down to that. It comes down to I missed a city bus in the morning, so I'm going to miss football practice. How can I be resourceful right now? Maybe I can ask a neighbor for a ride, or, did my mom or dad leave to work already? Like just being put in those adverse situations, it's primal instinct. It's survival of the fittest. It's like, you either eat or be eaten. And I think growing up in that type of environment, I would say really shaped my ability to say, what, if I want to survive, I have to be resourceful. And like if I dropped you off on an island and you lived there for 3 years, you'll either be dead or you'll be one of the most resourceful people in the world.
Survivor.
It's survivor, right? And so like I think that's it. And I still try to replicate that scenario in my mind. So in my mind, it causes a lot of undue stress sometimes, but I'm trying to replicate that feeling of, hey, I've got to figure this out. And so I think being put in adverse situations, and also kind of looking back, even if you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth, looking back and saying, everybody goes through adversity, no matter what level, what age, what socioeconomic level, everybody goes through adversity. It's how you face that adversity, how you pick yourself up from that. And I think that kind of spending a lot of time on my own growing up as well, I kind of pushed myself to be resourceful. And there was kind of that survival instinct that was being built. And we all have it within us. Sometimes we get it shielded as children or, whatever it might be. But we have all faced adversity. So I think learning resourcefulness was, okay, there aren't a ton of resources available to me. So I've got to be really, really resourceful in this way. It's like a chef that only has 3 ingredients. You have these TV shows. They go, you're gonna use just these 4 ingredients, and you're gonna make something for the chefs to judge. It's like that guy. I want to go to that guy's restaurant, versus this guy has access to every ingredient in the world. I want to go to his too, but it's like, what if that chef who could make an award-winning meal with 4 ingredients all of a sudden had access to Gordon Ramsay's network?
Wow.
And I go, if you bring that to the table, that guy will always win. Because that guy is going to take that competitive edge of resourcefulness to a place where he now can really have access to that. And I felt like growing up, that was, growing up without money and all of that, it's like if you build those skill sets early on with no money and with no success, if you ingrain those and you stick to them, then when you have infinite money and infinite opportunities and everybody answers your call, you're going to learn, you're going to already know, it's going to be built in of how to utilize what you've built, and you're going to get 10 times out of it than anybody else because you're going to be resourceful. Now, the caveat is if you come from a similar background, you have to let go of the poverty mindset, because in order for you to gain access what happens is people will get there and they're so scared of going broke again that they build all these kind of towers around them, and they isolate themselves a lot of times. They become cruel people to work with sometimes. They become cruel people to be in a relationship with sometimes because they're not happy themselves. And so you do have to let go of the poverty mindset, which is if you have friends and family that are negative, that don't believe in you, that don't give you words of affirmation or confirmation of what you're doing, then you have to detox your network. Best friends, I don't care if you went to middle school with them, etc. For me, I've been lucky that most of my closest friends and my family have, been pretty supportive, and it's been a great process. But I hear time and time again how detrimental, a significant other or a friend or a family member is. And you kind of have to take a step back and say, why do I have this frustration inside of me? What's my chip on my shoulder? And that's okay. Acknowledge the chips on your shoulder and say, okay, what are you going to do about it? But I would say getting rid of the poverty mindset, which is I'm going to be broke again, or the imposter syndrome, which is always there, which is this is too good to be true. What I'm doing is not going to last forever. And there's all this kind of fear that happens. And that's why you see, minority ethnic run businesses or first and generation family business owners, they stay with one location. They stay small because they're afraid to let go of control, because the opposite of that, they finally figured it out. And if we lose this again, we have to go back to food stamps and all this. Like, that's so scary that it drives a lot of behavior. But if you let go of the poverty mindset and you go, you know what, let's franchise this. We've really figured this out. Let me talk to banks. Let me raise money. Let me figure these things out. And I think that there's a knowledge gap with people that don't speak English as a first language, for sure. Because just the Google abilities alone, right? It's like when you Google in a different language, I have many times. I speak different languages. I've seen the results are different. They're not as powerful. And most of the good stuff's in English. That's just where the web's at. So I feel like although everyone's got the internet, everyone's got an iPhone in their pocket, I think that I think that people without as much money don't become as competent in terms of computer literacy. Because it's not like me. I didn't grow up with an iMac. You know what I mean? So like I had to learn that first. What is a mouse? Like other people might have known that at 3 years old. I had to learn it at 10 years old. So I think there's still a gap in computer literacy because computers are $2,000 for the good stuff. Right. And then I do think that there's also a lack of not access, but a lack of knowing that there's access available and then how to do that. And I see so much talent go to waste. And now I'm a trustee of the Fleischer Scholars Foundation. We have our program across the United States, which is for underserved high school students throughout these communities, the biggest being at Arizona State. And they come in, it's a free program, they stay on campus, and it's really showing those students, hey, if you want to be an entrepreneur, here are those resources. If you want to go to secondary education, which we recommend, here are the resources, and here's the person, the admissions counselor, to ask questions to. And so kind of shattering that, and most students in that program, they've never been to a campus before. Like this is their first time, and they're going into their senior year of high school, and they've never experienced that. Right. I didn't experience that. And so, being able to say, hey, yeah, there's access. Yeah, there are scholarships for these kids, but do they know that they're there? How do they know that they're there? And I see so many students kind of shoot themselves lower because they just don't know what's in front of them. Right. And so there's a huge problem there. But I would say getting rid of that poverty mindset, understanding that, look, I will never be broke again because I will not allow myself to be broken. I will work 10 jobs if I have to. Accepting that so that you can think a little bit bigger. And I think that is the issue, is that the people who think too big end up doing nothing, and then nothing happens. And the people who are doing things, because they realize how difficult it is, they start to kind of lower that kind of bound. They'd be like, you know what, I'd be happy if just this. Right. And so it's finding that balance, right? And I think coming from where I came from, and where a lot of people come from, it's easy to be like, I just want to get out the hood. I just want to buy my mom a car. I just want to have a nice watch. I just want to drive a Lambo. Well, when you have all those things, what happens next? And that is not something that's taught in school. It wasn't taught in my school, where they say, hey, once you have the car, the watch, this, What else? There was no classes about taxes. There were no classes about how to trust people to manage your money or how to work with a business partner. I didn't learn any of that stuff in school. Those are real life street smarts.
Right.
And you get cut a few times, and the less you get cut, the faster you learn.
That's beautiful. And you speak about the kids, and I know that you're extremely generous to them. So just to continue on mindset here, I've heard you speak about how different you treat the kids as opposed to how you are in a business room, perhaps. And I think a lot of us, it's really interesting to hear your thoughts and to see that the way that you've set up your life, because I've done a lot of those, but not to completion like you have, right? Yeah. So I see that you talk about when you build a business, it's not greedy, it's not selfish. As a matter of fact, on the contrary, it's selfish to not do so, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that mindset and how to not feel bad about becoming a business owner that is, driving Ferraris and Lambos and so on and so forth?
Well, in order to accept and embrace anything, you have to you got to look at I study consumer psychology a lot because I just have always been fascinated. But you look at actions are driven by those beliefs, and so you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you, out of all people, are able and willing and deserving of whatever it is that you want in life. And that could be a little bit, a lot, that could be whatever. You want to travel the world, that's okay. What happens is as we get older, our imagination wanes. Our imagination just disappears. And we try to instill it into our kids as we get older so that it doesn't die and it lives on with them. And in extreme cases, you see where, like those pageant shows, you see the mom instilling that imagination so much it's controlling the kid.
Right.
So there are extremes of that. But I think that, you mentioned the way I talk to kids versus the way in business. It's selfish to build something small if you have something big to give.
I love that.
And it takes a long time if you're not thinking big. You think of a funnel and you have a tight little funnel and you're trying to pour cake batter, but you've got 10,000 gallons to pour through this funnel. And people get frustrated because the cake is not funneling through quickly enough, but nobody's afraid to get messy a little bit and swap out the funnel. People are afraid to change things once it's working. They're like, well, it's working. It's going to get there. It'll probably speed up. And then you have, everyone sitting around the table saying, no, I think it's speeding up now. Yeah, I think it is. And then nobody wants to touch it. And so my belief is that if you've got something good and you've got something big, if you are blessed with a talent, you are blessed with the ability to create value, create jobs, create opportunity, then I think you should do something big. And it's selfish to think small because imagine if some of the best artists, I get frustrated all the time when I really get onto an artist and they become so famous, they stop making albums because they're afraid of what their 100 million fans are going to think.
Right.
And they disappear, and the paparazzi and all this, and they disappear. And it's almost like too much fame kills art, and it kills expression. And so, that's why I admire people who are able to have 100 million fans and still be able to create freely and openly. Unfortunately, what you see is, if I'm being morbid, a lot of times there's early deaths in the entertainment space, in the creative space. There are a lot of suicides,
right.
A lot of misunderstanding, a lot of hurt. So anyway, that's not my space, but I understand enough about it to connect to it. And I think that if you're building something great and first of all, if you're extraordinary, you're almost going to work your whole life trying to suppress it. You're going to work your whole life trying to hide it because you're going to be found, right? If you're Justin Bieber or you're Billie Eilish or you're someone who has so much extreme raw talent, you're going to spend most of your life trying to hide from it because it's so much there. It's so a part of you that you want your own life. And you see like Michael Jackson and you see these like greats try to kind of create their own reality because their reality was taken from them and kind of put on display. So there's a balance of that. And I had a little bit of that, just a small taste of it being a young entrepreneur, because it was like, well, Josh, what are you going to work on next? It must be $1 billion thing and you kind of just get these perceptions from people and you go, and I took a step back and I go, wait, I don't want to be a billionaire. And like, I don't really care about that. Like I love being able to provide for myself, provide for my family, my future kids. And I love the ability to invest and advise other entrepreneurs. And so I need resources to do that. And on the giving side, you'll never have enough money to give away. So like, I totally get it. And you have to accept the fact that, hey, you are a steward of this money. This money you can't take with you. You are a steward of it. You're simply renting it. And you're going to give it back eventually. How you give it back is what's important. And if you have a lot of it, you really have to think through, how are you going to give it back? And it's your money, do what you want with it. But I think of it as like, hey, I'm renting this. How can I maximize the value and respect it while it's in my hands? And one of the best ways to do that is obviously community giving, empowering other entrepreneurs, creating brands like Snow that create opportunity, that inspire, that create jobs. So I think if you want to create something, and I want you to challenge yourself to 10x that thinking, 100x that thinking, and say, okay, I want to start a hair salon. Instead of that, say, just if this is what you want, just play with it. What if I started a hair salon franchise? And what would that look like? And which brands am I going to use? Because I'm going to want the same brands across all of them. And just play with that in your head. Even on paper, it's free, doesn't harm anybody. To say, okay, I'm going to start a Mexican restaurant. Well, wait a second. I'm going to start a Mexican franchise. What does that look like? And right now, post-COVID and everything that's gone on, and we've made it through the last year, change creates opportunity. And so there's more opportunity right now for people that have never done anything big before than ever before. It happens every 100 years. This is it right now. And then if the bubble bursts or whatever happens with the stock market, that's even more opportunity, because it kind of clears, it's like a detox. It clears the system. People that were too leveraged on debt disappear because they can't pay their debt. People that weren't building great brands and businesses, they disappear. Ones that had great brands and didn't build great businesses get bought by those who know how to build great businesses to turn it into that. So it's a shifting of wealth. Right. And anytime there's a shift, there's an opportunity for you to jump in there. But I think if you're selfish, if you have something great and you're thinking too small, unless that is what you want, right? If you're like, I just want a lifestyle business, I want to have 2 locations in Arizona, I want to be able to visit them every day, there is nothing wrong with that. But if you have something great, at least figure out a way or another method. You say, I'm going to have these 2, but I'm going to share my methods on a YouTube cooking show, or I'm going to start a podcast where I can share these things and have other people share things. It's about that abundance mindset. And I feel like when you grow up without much, or you grow up with a huge chip on your shoulder, you're so focused on not drowning, and you're so focused on yourself. That's why it's hard. It's rare to find young, fast growing individuals that also can take the time to give to others, or take the time to be transparent. Or if I ask a question, they answer it completely, because everyone's so focused on what they're working on that if they lose focus, they're afraid they're not going to get what they want. In reality, what I figured out is that if you help a lot of people get what they want, you will always have what you want. And if you give without any expectation of wanting to receive, you will receive anything you want at any time. And it's this kind of anomaly that I figured out, after 10 years of doing what I was doing. And I said, well, wait a second. If I learn how to ask for help, people actually want to help. If I create a vision big enough and I execute upon it, I become the leader that I would want to follow and I would want to be on a team with, that people would want to come and work with me, and they'd want to join my team, the best people in the world.
Right.
And so I kind of just re-engineered my thought process and said, if I think too small, people go, what's in it for me? If I go, hey, let's do a business, it's probably going to spin off $200,000 a year. You can get 10% of it. And you're like, oh man, this is a lot of work. I'm going to make max 20 grand a year. I don't know if it's worth taking away 5 years from my family to maybe make 20 grand a year. It's probably not worth it. If I said, hey, I've got this idea that we can run from our laptop. I've got this really cool guy I met. He's got some patent on it. I think it's really, really cool. We can build a website out here is what I'm thinking. And it could probably make $20 to $40 million a year. If not, we can license it. Okay, that's a little bit more interesting. Let's talk about it.
Right.
And so I think thinking bigger, if you think too small, people are there just to do a job. If you think bigger, they're there to accomplish a mission, achieve something. And that's where you're going to get a better caliber of person, because they know that they're not simply coming in to sweep up the floors. They're coming to change the world.
Right. So you found a why, it sounds like, right? Mm-hmm. So I think with the way that you positioned it is absolutely beautiful. And I think that we all do come across fear. And I think that's what psychs us out, that imposter syndrome maybe that you were discussing. How did you find your why? I think we always talk about find your why. And I've had difficulties with this too. I've worked for, huge companies that try to implement this mindset, and I'm like, Well, like obviously I love my family. Obviously I want, my son to thrive and have a great future. But did that why naturally come to you, or is that something that you spent time researching and figuring out how to gather that thought process?
Well, after I exited a business like 6 years ago, I became pretty depressed. So and that was the first time I had really, because I was in high school. You're running a big business. I was in Arizona State University. I was taking 22 credits a semester. I was in the honors college. I was running a business, a multi-million-dollar business for my dorm room, and I graduated in 24 months. So I was like jam-packed. And then after I graduated college, it was the first time in my life that I had 24 hours a day to just work. So that's what I did. So I worked for 24 hours straight for like a year or two, and I had essentially a delayed burnout. So I ended up exiting that business, and then I couldn't explain why. I just didn't have the motivation to do anything. I was kind of like a deer in the headlights. So I started kind of doing a lot of things from bed. I wasn't even leaving the house really, but I started trying to do a lot of things to try to find my purpose again. And it was like, okay, if I don't have my one thing anymore, I got to have 10 things that are okay, because one of those will impress people, or one of those people will be interested in. And so it's almost like I'm split testing ideas by telling people I run 10 businesses, seeing which one they react to the most. And I was like, this is toxic. Like, I'm building stuff for other people. I need to build something for myself. And I think going through that depression made me dig deep to figure out what is my why, and why do I want to keep doing this? Because you get to a point where you're like, why even do that? Why do this all over again just to have another car? And like, what am I doing here? And so I had to dig deeper, and I found a commonality that's kept me focused in life has been chasing difficulty. It's not necessarily like finding the hard way to do everything, but chasing difficulty. I graduated in 2 years. I went to the honors college. Like, I wasn't a straight A student, but I was seeking that difficulty because I found purpose in that. And that's why I'm not externally competitive, like unless you're playing like a game of basketball or something, but I'm not externally competitive. I'm internally competitive. So I may be quiet in my head and be like, Josh, what are you thinking about? And I'm replaying my game, in my head. Like, how did that call go? What could have I done differently? What did he actually mean by that? Boom, 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 boom. And so I'm replaying. I'm really hard on myself. And a lot of great entrepreneurs are really hard on themselves, and they're hard on other people. I'm a lot more hard on myself than I am on other people right now. So I'm really focused on that. But I think finding the why was important, because if you peel it back, you go, well, what's my why? Well, I want to be financially independent. And then what? Well, and if you ask yourself, and then what? So what? Like 5 times in a row. And then when you're working on a team, it's not just about your why. You got to figure out everybody else's why. And you got to see, is there alignment with what I'm trying to do here and what we're trying to do as a team? So what's my why? What's the team's why? What's the business's why? And what's this person that we're considering bringing onto the team? What is his or her why? And you'll find that most of the time it's not money, actually. Like, obviously I want to make a good living, right. But it's like, it's not around money. It's maybe significance. It's maybe recognition. It's maybe they want authority so that they can learn how to train and manage a team, or they want the budget to be able to test and learn more about their skill they want to master, because they want to be the best at blank, 5 years from now. And Snow is hopefully going to help them get to that.
Right.
You can't simply be like, this is a lifer. This person's going to work at Snow for 50 years. From day one, you bring them on the team. That's not going to happen. You have to figure out, hey, this is a stop along your journey. Where are you headed? Show me your itinerary. Let's talk about it. Cool. And there are no wrong answers. Okay, cool. All right. So you want to be an entrepreneur one day, but Snow is a great stop for you because you want to learn all the mechanics of building a high growth startup, so that you can take that experience and start your own thing 5 years from now, or maybe sooner. That's phenomenal. If I know that up front, I understand what the why is. Well, how do we line you up? What skills do I think you need to learn? What skills do you think you need to learn? Okay. And we build out a roadmap, and then you've got buy-in all around the table. I'm bought in because I go, you know what? I like this plan. This makes sense. Totally. I'm excited. Let me empower you. They're like, oh, wow. Okay. I'm not just here to do a job. This is part of my journey.
Right.
Everybody's on their own journey. They're not on your journey. And that's why the worst leaders, and somehow some of them are very successful, they see other people as pawns in their own game. And they go, you know what? I'm going to place you here. And when I'm done with you, I'm going to throw you off the table and I'm going to move forward. I can't do that. And so for me, I'm like, yo, like, let's just put it on the table. What do you want? What are you looking to get paid? 5 years from now, we're looking to get paid. What are you looking to be doing at that point? So I have this raw conversation as often as I can to understand, what do my people, my team members, my family, what do they actually want? And how can I help them accomplish that? And hopefully snow is a part of that. And so we figured that out first. And you do that and you break that down the line. Some people, they will tell you, they're just like, honestly, I just want to make a good living. I want to feel respected at where I work. I want to feel safe where I work. And that's about it. 5 years from now, I'd like to be here, maybe make a little bit more, and I'm cool with that. That's fine as well. Okay, cool. How can I make it feel more safe? How can I empower you some more? So I think finding your why and then digging for other people's whys and seeing how you can help them with that, you get better at drawing that out. And you go, why am I doing this? Oh, I'm doing it for other people. Does that really matter? Oh, wait, that doesn't really matter. Okay, well, let me get rid of that. And so I had to go through that practice because I felt a bit lost. And when you lose your compass, your compass starts spinning.
Right.
You're like, where am I going? And you're walking and you're exhausted because you're just walking and you don't know where you're going.
You don't have direction.
You got a little bit of water left on you and it's hot and there's animals out here and like, where am I going? And so you start freaking out. Well, what you got to do is you just got to take a seat, let the thing recalibrate, kind of read some books, read some quotes, go get a massage, sleep in one day, and give yourself the space for your mind to help find that direction. And you realize, like, wait a second, most entrepreneurs I found after having this discussion with them, there's a number in their head, right? They go, when I make $1 million, I'll be set. When I make $10 million, we think in base 10. So it's always 1, 10, 100 or billion, almost always.
Right.
So, and I go, okay, I give you $100 million. What are you going to do with it? Let's talk about it. And oh, well, I donate this to charity, and then I probably start another thing here. I probably invest in this. And, I kind of write it down and I go, okay, and then what? Like, what are you going to do then? Well, I don't know. I guess I'll probably start another thing. And I go, well, if you have a good thing going, why would you get rid of this good thing going if you're just going to start another good thing going? Oh, you want financial security. Well, let's peel that back. How much do you have in your bank right now? I've got about $200,000. If you had $20 million in your bank account right now, would you think about this business differently? I think so. Let's look at it. Let's pretend right now you have $22 million in your Bank of America personal checking account. It's all yours. You already paid your taxes on it. Now we're here today, right now. You have that money. What are you thinking about now? And so you almost have to become that 5-year, 10-year from now person today, because when you get there, like I have, you're not prepped for it, or you haven't thought about it, or you haven't figured out what you're going to do next or whatever. And you don't have to be specific, just in general, it changes a lot. You realize that I was like, oh my gosh, $1 billion is a lot of money. Like if you actually break that down, you're like, I can give 900 million of it away, I guess. That's cool. Like if that happens, great. I would love to be the steward of that. I think I would do a good job at it.
Right.
But personally, after you make like, a couple $100,000 a year in like salary or whatever, or after taxes, once you make that amount of money, especially like in Arizona, you can eat where you want, you can live kind of where you want, you can kind of do what you want. You can't fly a private jet and stuff like that, but you can fly and you can take vacations and you can live with your family. And so it's not like $30 million a year to $300,000. My biggest change was when I went from the city bus to my 1992 Toyota Camry. That's when I felt the richest.
Right. And that's insane. I mean, to have that mentality is absolutely beautiful. And, we talk about the imposter syndrome, and this is one thing I wanted to talk, because I know, we always talk about snow, and we will talk about snow.
Yeah.
But you and I, we've gone to parties together, we've gone to clubs together, I've gone to dinner with you, right? I've never felt intimidated. You've always made me feel really like we're the same person,
Yeah.
Like we have the same level of
That's
success. Right. Obviously we don't, but you've always given off that vibe. The thing is, though, even though I'm aware of the imposter syndrome, even though I listen to you speak, even though, you're fairly accessible to me, right? At the end of the day, when I go to bed, I'm like, I can't open up a company like Snow, So I wanted it because it's hard. It's hard to get rid of that, that broke mentality that you were talking about, that imposter syndrome. So I wanted to speak a little bit about your first venture, right? I believe I heard you speak about taking your first $20 and then just reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting. Super simple concept, right? Not hard for any of us to grasp.
Right.
None of us have the discipline to do it other than a small amount of people.
Right.
How did you develop that discipline to be able to do that?
Well, it's all I had, first of all. And that's the thing, right? Like, everybody's going to have a different path and a different story, and it's going to be slightly different, but you have what you have. And I think also not having, not having kids, being a teenager, like my bar was set really, really low. But internally, my bar was set really, really high. But in actuality, I sold one of my first websites, $4,000. I could buy a car cash for that. I felt rich. That was great. So like my bar was set a lot lower versus someone who's in their 40s with 3 or 4 kids and is carrying a household and a mortgage. To be like, start with $20. It's different, right? So I'm definitely aware of that. And I think that I used to look at companies like that. I still do. You know what? I think if anything, it's solidified, because I remember there was a point where I was like, I buy so many hoodies. I need to have a hoodie business. I buy so many shoes. I need to have a shoes business. And you do research. You're like, oh my gosh, they made this shoe for $10 and sold it to me for $200. I got to be in this business. And then as I scaled businesses to a certain point myself, I realized how difficult that is. And like that it takes sometimes 10, 20 years of your life away when you look at somebody's thing and to be like, I could do that. It's such a disrespect to somebody, because somebody literally, it's like I look at the painting on the wall and I go, I could do that. Give me a week or 2 in YouTube tutorials. It's so disrespectful, because it's like, no, you can't. And you can't do it right now. And, that's just disrespectful. So I think looking at, as I've gotten older and more mature in business and scaling my own things, I have so much appreciation for somebody who runs any company. I mean, honestly, like if they've been in business more than 5 years, huge respect. If they, are profitable, huge respect. If they're whatever, like I've gained so much respect, and I realized, wow, you can only build probably like at max capacity 3 or 4 snows in your lifetime. Like that's it, right? You could build 1 or 2 Teslas, right? Like, or 1.
Right.
So it's like, you can only build so many of these things. And so they're so important. This is my sport. As an entrepreneur, this is my sport. It's not a game, it's real life, but this is my game. And I am the character, and my team are my team, like in a game, right? And so I understand that there's a process. I've got to level up myself in order to be ready for the next level, or that boss is going to defeat me. And if I've got a team, I got to make sure I'm leading my team in the right areas. Otherwise, my whole team could die in this game. And so, like, that's how I think about it. And it's all that I think about it. I love what I do, but I think that starting small, whatever that means to you, will make you resourceful. It is what it is. And some of the most resourceful entrepreneurs I know who run billion-dollar businesses, they know how to ask for help. They know how to be the most quiet person in the room and ask the right questions. They've learned those things. And so I think that, you ask for, there's a show called Undercover Billionaire on Discovery Channel. And there's an entrepreneur in there, and she asked the people, because what they have to do is they have to start over with like $1,000 or something and turn it into $1 million company within, 90 days or something. Right. It's a really cool show. And so she's living at this Basque hotel that has a restaurant on the bottom floor, and she's renovating the whole place. And the way that she bartered rent was she would keep the place clean and tidy it up, and she would stay there. And it's like a place for like $20 a night or something like that. So she's staying there. She got 2 younger girls, and she was great. She introduced herself. She's like, how long have you guys been living here? And then she got their buy-in. She was like, what do you guys think of it? Could it be cleaner? Oh yeah, it could definitely be cleaner. She got their buy-in, and she was like, hey, would you mind helping me later today at 6 p.m.? I'm going to be cleaning downstairs. Would you both be in? Yeah. They're in. And now she's got a whole army for free, but they bought into the vision of living at a place they would be more respected, and they would feel more comfortable coming home to a nicer place. So I think that being resourceful, watching that show, has really, I'm learning stuff from that as well, is that, it is hard. It's hard when you have money. It's nearly impossible when you don't. And that's just how it is, but the more resourceful you are, the better you are asking for help. I was not good at asking for help. I'm still not the best at asking for help, but asking for help is super key, including people in your vision and thinking, how can I create an opportunity where others get rich and I get really rich? And how can I create an opportunity where other people are able to stop here along their journey, and I can help them, immensely more than anywhere else? You have to believe that this person, John, I believe that if John works at Snow, at least for the next 2 years, he's going to get way more for his journey than if he stopped anywhere else. If that's not the case, I don't feel comfortable with John working with me because I'm in it for the long haul.
Right.
I'm here for 50 more years. And so I don't want to be the reason why John wasted 2 years of his life doing grunt work that was not helping him in his journey. I could not live with myself. And if you carry yourself by that metric and you realize, look, I want to be resourceful, start with $20, get a domain name, whatever. That was, 14 years ago. I don't know about now. Now it's $100 for Shopify or something. But figuring out what are people buying right now? What do people want right now? And I started with services because services, you don't have to have the perfect product created. You just got to know enough to be able to help someone else get to the next level. That's it. You don't have to be the world's best designer, the world's best painter. You just got to help that person get from level 3 to hopefully level 5, maybe level 10. And you get a bounty for helping them do that at zero cost of goods because it's just your time and your brain.
Right.
You learn from it. You're getting paid to learn. So one of the best ways to get started as an entrepreneur is in the services space.
Wow. That blew my mind. I have so many things spinning up here right now. I've never thought about it, especially the part where you're talking about stopping somewhere along the way in your journey. I have an interesting resume, where I've done a lot of stuff in finances. And the thing that I've stumbled across recently was that I've never worked at a company to where I took in, I can't open my own bank, maybe you can, but I sure as hell can't,
It's gotten a lot easier now, actually, online.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Maybe I can pull it off.
Maybe.
We'll talk after this. But, I didn't feel like I took a lot of skills away that I think could help on the back end of business. But, as far as what I'm passionate about, podcasts, for example, I've never worked in any field that would have benefited me in podcasts. And now it's too late, right? I can't start an intern radio job, have a kid and bills to pay. So I think that the fact that you elaborated on that is huge because it will change the mindset of a lot of the younger kids, like you're saying, that are in a position to where maybe they're freshly out of high school and now they can take on a job that'll build towards their future.
It's also you're building the skills, right? Even with Snow, I could have said, you know what, I'm going to put $1 million here. We're going to get the best, biggest office space. We're going to hire people from Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue, and we'll get the best people. I could have done that. Instead, I said, let's start it in my spare bedroom in my house, right? Granted, it's a big house, but I started in my spare bedroom because that discipline of let's see where this goes. And the principle to understand is follow the money. Follow the money. If somebody knows how to make money better than you, because the truth is, and this may sound capitalistic and crass and whatever, but I'm just saying what's on people's mind. A lot of young boys want to be an entrepreneur because they did maybe what I did. I used to stand outside of Fashion Square and wave people down in nice cars and be like, hey, I love your car, sir. What do you do for a living? And it was like lawyer, doctor, but the majority was I own a blank business, or I just sold a blank business, or I'm a partner in a blank business. It was constantly like entrepreneurs. And so I was like, wow, okay, if I want to one day drive a Lamborghini or Ferrari, then I need to do one of these jobs because that's what I'm learning from these people, that's what they do. So I go, okay, well, I've got to figure it out. I'm like, lawyer, law school, that's not for me. Didn't like it ever. So that wasn't going to work. Doctor definitely worked for me. So I was going down the doctor path where, hey, I could one day, maybe in my 50s, I would have my own practice and I would be able to buy a used Lamborghini and that would be my dream, and I'd have a nice house and I could be a community leader and I could do free workshops where I give away, as a doctor, and I had all these ideas, right? But then I found that I could help even more people earlier on with what I was doing. And I said, okay, I can make more money, help more people, and really build a life that I didn't even dream of doing this. I'm going to go all in here. But I think that young people and anyone young in an industry, if you don't have the chance to learn it all, like with Snow, I already had learned how to write my own Facebook ads, run my own Facebook ads, Google ads, web design, Shopify design. I didn't know Shopify. Shopify came out when it came out for everybody, and it blew up when it blew up for everybody. I was there. And so I learned how to liquid program because I go into things and I say, look, I don't need to be the best liquid programmer. I don't need to be the best web designer. But the thing is, I'm in my head. I'm the visionary in that aspect. So I've got to help people. I can't expect people to just know what's in my head.
Exactly.
I've got to draw it. I've got to create a 3D. I've got to get samples to show them. Like I got to if I'm going to recruit, like if you're starting a business, you got to think about people are going to respect you a lot more if you know how to set up the mic, if you know the software, if you know how to tweak the sound so that it sounds a certain way. Like, you know, they're going to respect the fact that you know how to do the stuff in there, and they're going to respect you even more because your team that you build is going to know how to do it better than you, but you're going to be able to do it. And so it gets you an understanding. It helps you also early on in business not get screwed over.
Right.
Because that's the biggest thing is you got, you know, $5,000 to start this business. You go hire a Facebook ad person. You go, all right, I'll pay you $2,500 a month. I've only got 2 months in the bank account, but you better make it work. And you don't know what they're even doing.
Right.
And so, like, for me, I want to at least understand it. I don't have to tell people what to do. I hire the best people I can find, and I get out of their way. I empower them. But if I know what I'm looking for and I know the verbiage, the lingo at least, this guy, if someone is trying to screw me over, they're going to be like, oh, this guy's a little too smart for me. I might actually have to work here. You know what? I don't want to work with them. People who are really good and they got a chip on their shoulder and they want to join your team, they're going to be like, I respect this leader because they went through and created, you know, they created this stuff. I created the first website. I created the first landing pages. I created the first ads. I printed the first labels. I did customer service, like everything. I picked up the phone and called the customers on my iPhone. So because I did that, it gave me a lot of things. It gave me an insight into the early customers. What did they like? What didn't they like? Literally free feedback, which is huge. And then it also gave me an understanding of where we need to go with the products, where we need to go with the company. So like that was beneficial, but it also, now I know the systems. I don't know them as well anymore. So I can't, I might mess things up if I go in there now, but I know enough about how the things work so that when the problem comes up in a meeting, I'm not the CEO that sits there and goes, well, what's the solution, guys? Or like, what are we going to do here? Or like, why do we still have this problem? I'm like, okay, well, what if we tried this? And it could be, maybe it's a stupid idea, but at least I'm throwing an idea out and they go, I never thought of that before. And if you continue to remain relevant amongst your A players in your team by keeping yourself sharp, they're going to respect you a lot more. They're going to work a lot harder with you. They're going to say, let's solve this together. And I'm on the weekends thinking about problems and I'm like trying to come up with solutions. I'm reaching out to people. I'm constantly in problem solving mode.
Right.
And sometimes it takes weeks or months or sometimes years to solve a problem. But I kind of put those little Rubik's cubes in my head and I pick them up whenever I'm bored and I'm playing with them. But because I know where the colors should go, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I know red doesn't go in the orange box. As long as you know those things, it builds a huge, huge skill portfolio. You can't just be like, I want to drive a Lambo. I got to be a big ranking boss and do all this. Learn your craft, learn what you want to do. And then maybe in your scenario. So for example, with me, if I wanted to get into, say real estate, I want to get into real estate. I can't go intern at a real estate brokerage. I can't go, but in that scenario, I would go, who are the best trainers in the world of that? Who are the best people locally for that? And I'm going to say, hey, it's Josh from the podcasting world. I really want to jump into real estate. I'm a huge fan of what you've been doing. I've heard about you. I was wondering if there's any way I could pay you for a day to shadow or a day of apprenticeship or something along those lines, because I'm going to try to jump the line because I don't have that. That's why when you're younger or you're newer to industry, you have a few years to kind of learn that from scratch. At this point in my life, I have to learn the mechanics of it. I have to learn the principles of it and the fundamentals. And I know I need to know them extremely well, but I also need help in understanding who do I need on my team? What should I be watching for? And so I'm going to jump straight to the top. I'm going to go on LinkedIn, find the best people. I'm going to message them. Hey, can I pay you for a day? Can I pay you for an hour? Can I pay you for 30 minutes? I'll come with questions ready because I'm stuck here and maybe we could do this every month. And so I'm going to jump and hijack that network because I need to buy time. And if I'm at a space where I want to go into real estate hard, I don't want to just sell rentals. I want to own apartment complexes. Well, then that's a who's who. I got to get in there. So I got to meet everybody that I can, do everything that I can to make myself relevant there. I might even create a podcast on it, right? Because you are who you're becoming. And when I was growing up, I started telling people I make websites for small businesses in Arizona. When I made one, but that was my business card. It became who I was. So always taking who do you want to be 2, 3, 4 years from now? And how do you be that person today? And looking forward, are you going to be proud of what you're doing today? Audit your time out and say, wow, I'm spending 4 hours binging Netflix every night and I'm still complaining why I don't have money in the bank. Well, am I learning a skill? because everything you can learn online now, like 99.9, especially after COVID, 99.9% of everything you want to learn can happen online. And now you can literally close deals. I had a buddy just raise $100 million through Zoom. Like,
wow.
Anything
Unreal.
can happen now post-COVID without you leaving literally this chair. You and I could say, let's not leave this chair for 365 days. And let's figure out how to raise $5 million. And we'll eat, sleep, everything in here. And that's all we're going to talk about. But in order for you to become something, you have to become obsessed about it. And in order for you to be financially successful, you have to build that discipline, and everything becomes about it. Now, you don't want to become so obsessed with money. I don't care about money. Money is the form of keeping score in the game that we play, which is business, and it gives you resources so you can level up your team, level up your products. And so you want those resources. But if you're starting out small, you just have to accept the fact that you're going to have to learn how to do things until you can, as fast as you can, give them off. But the trick is you got to follow the money. There are too many people running businesses right now because they have sunk costs. Oh, I spent this much money already doing it. I bought all the equipment, or I already told all my friends about it. So there's sunk costs through the social capital. So you're like, I can't quit now because I put myself out there too much. But this is not what I want to do anymore. And so at the very least, I want to give everybody a permission to quit. And that's like contrary to what everyone says. Never quit, never quit. Don't quit something good, but you got to follow the money. I'm not a dentist, right?
Right.
This was something that I was passionate about building, and passionate about building a team around. And now I'm obsessed with the oral care space and cosmetics and all that. So, but it's a labor of love. You can't expect to be in love with every day while you're building your business. You have to accept the fact that some days you're going to want to quit. Most days you may want to quit. And it happens in different phases. First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And so the entrepreneurs get drained out right up front. Because if they're not getting attention, if they're not upgrading their Instagram bio with 8,000 things in it, their Clubhouse bio, or this, if they don't have that significance they can project onto the world, the truth is when you have a little bit of money, you want people to think you have a lot of money. When you have a lot of money, you want people to think you have no money.
Right.
When you have a monopoly, you want people to think you have no monopoly. When you have no monopoly, you want people to think this is the best gyro sandwich in north of the equator. You pretend that you have a competitive advantage by being a monopoly.
Right.
So that's the thing that I've realized getting older is that virtue signaling, which would be me saying like, I just want all the entrepreneurs in the world. I don't care about money. I pull up in a Ferrari. Like I like nice stuff. I can't tell you anything about it, but I like it. So like I like nice stuff. That's okay. But and if I didn't want the Lambo, the Ferrari when I was 15 years old, I don't know if I would have made it through those dark, horrible days where nobody believed in me, and I had to do everything myself. I don't know if I would have pushed through, because I'm like, when I have that Lambo, everyone will see, and that kind of chip on people's shoulders might be there. I'm going to show my dad or my mom that I was the one that deserved it, or whatever that chip is on your shoulder. Without that, I don't know if you can be where you need to be, because there are going to be a lot of dark days. There are a lot of hard days. They've got to pull you through. But I think that first they ignore you. Nobody's listening. Then they laugh at you. Oh, yeah, did you hear he's doing so-and-so? Oh, my gosh, yeah, is that real? Or is that a scam? Or, oh, yeah, he'll do anything for $1 or anything like that, right? I've talked to thousands of entrepreneurs in this exact scenario who have shared with me all variations of stuff that they heard. And when you get laughed at, that either fuels you or it kills you. Sometimes it fuels you in the wrong direction, but either way, you make it through that phase, and then the fight. And the fight stage could be 1 day to 100 years. And that is the real test of an entrepreneur. That's the real test of building a brand, because when everybody comes to fight, how hard are you willing to fight? How prepped is your team? How bought in are they to the mission that you're doing when things get tough?
Right.
And you got to start doing that today.
Man, wow. These are gems right here. I'm blown away. I'm over here taking my own takeaways personally. So, Josh, we talked about pushing through those stages, right? And we talked about earlier in the podcast about our why and using that as fuel to help push through those stages. But I wanted to kind of close out here with asking your opinion on obsession, right? We talked about obsession. And this is really interesting. And I'm sorry if I'm sharing this, because it's kind of, it's a personal thing that happened between us in the parking lot. But you got out of the car, you greeted me, very genuine greeting, right? And the second thing you said to me, boom, look what I brought you. And then you gave me a breakdown of what we have here. And I'm hoping you can explain that a little bit to us. But man, it wasn't fake. There was nobody around. The podcast wasn't on. We've known each other forever. You don't have anything to prove to me, but it was just so genuine and raw, just pure obsession and passion, the way that you broke that down to me. And it was quick, but it was so genuine. Can you tell me how you continue to fuel that obsession and kind of explain to us a little bit about what we have here in front of us today?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, you should never sell something, and so some people have to sell things that they don't like or they're not proud of because they got to put food on the table. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, I would never judge anybody for something like that. But if you love what you're selling, or if you really fall in love with what you're selling, this is an expression of me and my team's creativity. This was an idea on a napkin, and to see it come to life and then to be able to share that with people. I think about creating products, creating services, creating businesses like a chef would create. I'm not great at cooking, but if I was a great chef, I would think about, if I had friends over that I care about, I want to cook them something special. And I want them to taste the flavors. And it's not about me, it's about the food. And, I'll get applauded if it's good, awesome. But I want to see their reaction. I want to see them eat the food. And I want to show them how far I've come. And it's like a sample, right? It's like, if I had the world's best cookies, I would almost find it rude for me not to show up without cookies. In fact, the only time I show up empty-handed is when I've given everything out and I haven't restocked yet in my cars or wherever. So I think that and keeping in mind, you do become obsessed with something also through labor of love, through working at it for a long time. And you start to, you can look at things one of two ways. There might be an error somewhere, on this thing that I might be in my head, like, oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't see it or whatever. We are changing products so much. I don't think there's an error on here, but I'm just saying we've printed stuff where there's been something that wasn't right or whatever. And, and I felt kind of ashamed or kind of nervous to give it away. But what I've learned is that this is my business card right now, right? This is my business card. This launched in January of this year. This is millions of dollars of research and development. We would say this is the most advanced teeth whitening system on earth. This is, it's wireless, it's water resistant. It's got blue light for whitening, which is what we're known for. It's got the red light to help promote gum therapy. It comes with our whitening system. There's a cordless charging station that also self-sanitizes when it's charging to kill bacteria. Is travel friendly, Bluetooth enabled. So it's really like, the Apple of oral care, which is kind of what we've emulated since the beginning. What I've emulated since the beginning is the way that Apple takes on a few product launches a year and really puts a lot of effort into them. I wanted to bring that to the oral care space. And this is version 2 of what was a much larger box. And we, again, took our customer feedback, internal feedback, and said, let's make something that is easier to sit on shelves at Best Buy and stuff, that has all the technology but is more travel friendly. And we actually gave up pretty much nothing by changing the size of this, but we've gained so much because now Best Buy can put 3 on the shelf instead of 1, so more customers can get access to it. It's been so it's cheaper to ship, so we can drop our shipping threshold. So there are a lot of benefits here, but ultimately this is an at-home teeth whitening system. And Snow has become known for at-home oral cosmetics and oral care, and this is our most premium product on the market right now. And so we're really excited about it. But I think you'll become obsessed because these are our recipes. So this is one of our favorites on the menu, right? This is the new thing on the menu. This is the Wagyu, with shaved truffle on top of it, and it's like, I want you to check it out. And so for me, I think about, I want to be happy with what I'm selling. I want to be proud of what I'm selling, because as a marketer, I could sell anything, sure, but if you really love, 1, if it works, and 2, if you really believe in it, and 3, you love it, the design, everything, you want to share that with people. And I think that you see what happens with other people's faces light up, and it's exciting, and then people are trying it, and it kind of spreads this out. But I found that this idea, a lot of times what will happen is I'll tell somebody kind of what we're working on. I'll show them some mock-ups on the phone. And then 3 months later or 6 months later, we meet up for dinner or coffee, or I run into them and I go, oh yeah, here's that thing I was telling you about. And so what it's done is that we build in silence most of the time. And then we have these explosions of deliverables where it's like celebrity after celebrity after celebrity, new product, new product, new product. And so just when people think that we've gone silent, we're actually ready to release our biggest thing ever.
Right.
And so I like that idea. I like running a company that way. And, it's really exciting to create products that delight people. And so whenever I try to stock my cars, I put as much product as I can everywhere, because when you got a product that works, that you're really proud of, you want everybody to have it. And it's just like, people give out mixtapes, right? Like, check out my mixtape, right? I feel like if you've got something to share, you should share it. And these products we're extremely proud of. They're still works in progress, always, but this is the best that we've done today. And I wanted to bring it. One, because I wanted you to have it. I had it in my car. I had one left. But I think you want to have something that you can give out, even if it's a service or whatever it is. You want something that's easy for people to share. And in the product space, I feel like it would be a little bit weird if I showed up without a product of mine, because I'm coming on here as a chef. Why would I not at least bring, or not even a chef, if I had like a cookies brand that was sold at Target, why would I not bring a box of cookies for the office? And so I think, but unfortunately not a lot of people do it.
Right.
And I think that I would urge everybody to do it. I don't care if you're embarrassed by it. This is version 1 of our packaging or whatever it is. I was sharing stuff on Instagram, Facebook for years. You can go back 10 years. And I look back and I go, oh my gosh, I'm kind of embarrassed I shared that. But I'm happy I shared that, because it's part of my journey. And I think with social media today, people want to see the good, the bad, the ugly. They want to see what's going on, and they want to follow the real journey versus, hey, here I am now 30 years later, and like, oh, back in the day, the team was really important for us. I want to share that now. I want to be like, what happened yesterday that almost bankrupted our business? Let's talk about it right now. Right. I want to bring that real, people are watching live esports and live cooking channels, and everything's live. And I said, I want to be one of the entrepreneurs who kind of open sources the live building of a brand and use Snow as it. I have other businesses, but I said Snow is the one that is just, I feel like is in that position that I could share a lot on and really put myself to it. I took a $60,000 a year salary. That's it. Like nobody's put money into the business. This is truly like this painting this canvas with the community live together, and this David versus Goliath story. And I think that has been the biggest competitive advantage that has taken years to build, which is that everybody wants to join the team. Everybody wants to either build a Snow or be a part of Snow or be something like Snow or whatever it is. And that is a huge, I say that with a deep, deep heart, because that means that and my team knows this, there are people watching us and rooting for us. And we can't let people down. And it becomes bigger than yourself. Days that you don't want to get out of bed, which are often sometimes for me, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a long day. But I go, I can hear the people. I can hear the crowd. Even if it's just in my head, I'm like, I can hear the crowd. I can't let them down. I got to go out and do that. But I also got to take days for myself so I can be a better performer in that aspect. But I think my whole team now has embraced the fact that Snow is more than just ourselves. And you can do that today, even if you have one follower. Just start posting, hey, I did some drawings of logos. Let me know what you guys think. Remember, first they ignore you. So silence, silence, silence. But every big YouTube vlogger with 1 billion+ views started in silence. They just never gave up.
Right. And we just don't see that. Well, I can tell you this, Josh, just through word of mouth. I know this isn't my first product that I've gotten from Snow, but we are impressed. Every word on here could be spelled incorrectly and wrong, and we're still proud and impressed. This is still the Ferrari of the business. So
thank you.
Very, very grateful for you bringing this. Very grateful for you coming on here today. And thank you so much for taking the time to drop all these gems. If nobody watches this podcast, I will personally watch it 1,000,000 times again, just because of how much knowledge you spread here with me today, Josh.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and maybe I'll come back sometime. We'll do a follow-up or something.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
It would be a blessing to have you on again, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.